Okay, I am going to build 2 now, and this would be a really cool way to show you how to use the mirror command, because this really could just be split down the middle. So we're basically going to build 1/2 and then mirror the other side, and we're good to go. So I need to make a new one. Let's go File. These look like inches to me. Yep, they're measured in inches. And the smallest dimension I need to deal with is 0.25, other than the circle radius, which I can type in. So I'm going to go ahead and make new from template. Small objects in inches. Remember to double click. Go ahead and close my other one. I do not need to save that. And then I'm going to adjust the grid here a little bit. Oh no, actually it looks right. So I'm just going to double check. Grid options, snap every 0.25. Looks like it's set up for 1/4 inch spacing, so that's perfect. Okay, so the outer dimension, it looks like it's 9 inches by, okay, that's a little confusing, 5 inches across. So I'm going to make something 9 by 5. I'll start with a rectangle. Again, I just typed in rectangle and hit enter. There's my first corner. There's 4, 5, and then 9. And again, I'm watching the bottom right-hand corner and looking at the y coordinate. It's 9. Okay, so there we are, 9 by 5. Now what I want to do is decide which features do I want to build in which order. I think I'll go ahead and build this little slotted thing, which is basically 2 circles with lines connected. So I'm going to give myself some guidelines for that. I like to draw extra lines because it helps me figure out where I am. So the first one is in a distance of 1.5 in, so I'm going to go in 1.5 and draw myself a guideline. If you hit enter, it'll just repeat the last command, which was a line for me. So those are guidelines, and then the center goes up 1 inch. So we'll go here and draw another guideline. So now these intersections are where my circles are going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and type circle, grab that intersection, and it looks like it's a radius of 0.375. Hit enter for a repeat last command. It's going to jump to 0.375, which is perfect. Now, these don't look like circles over here. They look like these slots. So what I'm going to do is do line. And I'm going to connect midpoint intersection. If you're not getting these same snaps turning on, you need to check your O snaps on this side. Intersection, intersection. Now I'm going to introduce you to the trim command. So if you go to, it depends on which view you're in, I think. Standard has, yeah, there's trim. You can also get these tools out of the curve tools menu. So you're looking for trim. And so it says, what are the cutting objects? So think about your knives. What are your knives? That's a knife and that's a knife. Hit return. And then what's being cut? Well, I want to cut that thing out and I want to cut that thing out. And I'm going to say done. And then one last thing I need to do is actually group that if I want to extrude. So I'm going to click down and then I'm going to hold shift while I'm selecting the other pieces. And then you want to do the little puzzle piece here called join, or you could type the join command. And the way to test to see if it actually joined is you click on it, it should select the whole thing. Okay, I'm done with my guidelines, so I'm going to delete those out of there. I need these chamfers on the end. There are chamfer tools. I think it's really easy to just draw a line in the corner because of the way we have our grid set up. Line, line. And then we'll use our trim command again. So here's our cutting objects. And what should be cut? Those outer pieces. Say done. And then we want to make sure that we join those things when we're all finished. Okay. So you can see I'm working on this half of the object. I'm going to go ahead and build this piece. And then we'll just go ahead and extrude the whole thing together. No, I changed my mind. I don't want to do that. I'm going to extrude this thing up. So go to Solid Tools, Extrude Curve, and I'm going to select 2 curves because I want to extrude both of them at once. I'm going to say done, and then I want to take off this both sides. That's annoying. And I'm coming up a distance of 0.5. So I type 0.5, hit return, and there we go. Now, if you go ahead and switch this thing to shaded perspective, something cool happens when you have an outer curve and an inner curve and you extrude them together. It does the Boolean difference for you. It knows to subtract the inner from the outer. So that actually saved me a step. Now, before I go further, I'm going to go ahead and mirror those features to the other side. So I'm going to type mirror. And what objects do I want to mirror? I don't know what's going to happen here. Let's try this. Done. And then what's going to happen? Boom. Interesting. So it just reflected itself, which actually is not exactly what I want. So I'm going to undo that. Let's try just mirroring this piece. Let's try to mirror this hole. Oh, no, it's not going to let me do that. I'm going to have to go backwards here. Because I think what it did was it actually joined those pieces together. Yeah, so let me back up a few steps here. I'm going to undo before we did our extrude, and let me try to do the mirror now. I can do it at least on that piece. So I'm going to select that object to mirror. I'm going to draw my line. Interesting. Why is it going all the way out there? That's because of how it's calculating the midpoint. Because it's calculating the midpoint of these segments right here. Interesting. Okay. Well, the midpoint actually of this whole thing should be at 4.5. So I'm going to draw a line at 4.5 across. And I'm going to try the mirror again. I'm going to mirror that object, and then I'm going to go from here to here. Okay, perfect. I wonder what happens if I mirror the outside, like I tried when it was in 3D. Interesting. So it basically just made a copy and rotated it, which is not what I want. I'll go ahead and do that. These chamfers on the end here manually. Good. We're going to trim. That's a knife. That's a knife. Cutting that, and then we want to join all these pieces together. All right, I can go ahead and take that out. Okay, so let's go ahead and select all that again. Go back to Solid Tools, Extrude, come up our distance of 0.5, and at least we got that base plate built. Now we can add these two pieces pretty easily. Like we talked about in the last video, if I start drawing right now in the top view, I can prove this by drawing a line. It actually, all the stuff in the top view goes on the bottom of the object. And I don't really want to draw this upside down. So I need to take the C-plane that's associated with the top view, and I need to shift it up. So I'm going to go to C-planes, and I'm going to go set elevation, and all I need to do is move it up a distance of 0.5. What I want to test right now by drawing a line is that it in fact draws on the top of that surface. So, perfect. So I can do all my work in the top view and it's going to work just fine. So I want to set a guideline to come out 2 inches and then another 0.5 inches from there. So here's a guideline, 2 inches. Here's another guideline of 1/2 inch from there. That sets out my thickness of this thing I'm going to create. And then I think, why don't I just draw a rectangle? That probably would have been even easier. Let's do that. Let's delete those things. I should have drawn a rectangle in the first place since I'm just going to be extruding that. So rectangle all the way across, thickness of 0.5. I should be able to just extrude that right now. So Solid Tools, click on the curve you want to extrude, and then we're going to come up a distance of 3.5. And we can go ahead and cut some pieces in this now. I'm going to have a similar problem with C-planes. So if I want to draw a line in the front view, it's not actually going to draw on that surface. So one of the things you can do that works in some of these views is you can turn on project onto the C-plane. And let's see if that'll work here. And it's not actually projecting. All right, so that's not going to work for us. So what we need to do is set the C-plane to an object. And I think I can use set C-plane to surface. So go to the C-plane's view. Make sure front view is selected, and then we're going to choose, I think it's this option, C-plane to surface. Now, I'm actually going to go over and select that surface from the perspective view and tell it where that surface starts. Okay, you have to draw out to assign your axes so it's oriented. And let's go ahead and draw a test line in the front view and see if we in fact are drawing on that surface. Beautiful. So that will allow me really quickly to deal with those chamfers. There's a line, there's a line. And you know what? This time I'm going to do something different. It's called a polyline. And I'm going to draw actually a triangle. So down, 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 down. Perfect. So you'll see that's actually a triangular shape. I'm going to go ahead and mirror that real quick. This thing. And then I want to mirror across the midpoint. Perfect. I can use those objects to cut. And then I'm going to draw my guidelines for the circle. So midpoint guideline. And then I think I want the next one 2 inches down from the top. So there's 1 inch down and 2 inches. Now I'm having an issue. It's trying to snap to midpoint, and I actually don't want it to snap to the midpoint. So I'm going to turn that snap off. I'm going to go down distance of 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inches. Draw that line. Now I can place my circle, which it says my circle radius. What does it say? It says my circle radius is 1.5 inches. I think that actually on the drawing is a diameter measurement, just like I did in the last video. So you can do the math right here. 1.5 divided by 2, and it'll cut it in half, which is 0.75. Oh, but look at that. It's drawn it on the wrong surface. So I think something happened a few steps ago with our O snaps that I didn't notice. I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to draw this guideline again. Down the midpoint. Good, that's on the surface. I'm going to draw another guideline. Down 1, 1.5, 2. Good, those are on the surface. So now when I try to draw this circle, it should stay on the surface. 1.5 divided by 2. Okay, good. I'll delete those. And then I can go ahead and do 3 extrusions real quick. So solid tools. I want to extrude this, this, and this. I want to go a good long ways. And then we'll do 3 Boolean differences. So here's the staying object. And here is the 1, 2, 3 cutting objects. And then if all goes well, we should be able to mirror that geometry to the other side. So let's give that a try. I'm going to turn midpoint back on here. I'm going to type mirror. And I want to select that object to mirror. I want to go across the midpoint. And there it is. So that was pretty slick. Again, I can go ahead and change the view. And I can add dimensions if I want to. Not interested in doing that right now. Hope that was helpful.